Hub. Today we're delighted you can join us for an introduction to the virtual classroom. This session will take about 10 minutes and it caters for a number of different people. For people who have never been engaged or interacted in a virtual classroom before, for people who have interacted but aren't too sure about how to get the best from it, or for people who are quite experienced but would like a reminder of how it works. Essentially, there are 4 areas that we're going to cover here today. So at the end of this session, hopefully you'll understand why you should use a virtual classroom. Also, we will give some insight into how it works for the learner or the participant. We'll give you some insight into how to get started. A lot of our clients, a lot of our participants say how easy or how difficult it is. In actual fact, it's very easy, and we're going to give you some insight into how to get started with an ease. And finally then, if you are going to be a host or a facilitator, and some of our listeners here may be, we're going to go through some of the best practice guidelines that you might want to adapt if you are going to be a host or a facilitator. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to have a look at is why should you use a virtual classroom? Well, a lot of our clients and a lot of our learners talk to us about the need for, well, more and more really, the need for flexibility and convenience. And really the virtual classroom, we title it as at your desk learning because all you need is a PC and some access to some speakers. If you had a headset, that's even better because you can speak back to the actual facilitator. But if not, all you need is to be able to hear the facilitator, a PC, and access to the internet. It's a very cost-effective way of interacting with others because there's no travel cost or travel time, or even costs around hiring rooms and facilities and equipments for teaching or training. It's quite a high impact way of interacting, and not an awful lot of people know the variety of ways that you can interact in a virtual classroom. And that's some of the things that we're going to cover here today. So whether you're engaging in a briefing or communication session or even a teaching session, the virtual classroom should work for you. At an obvious level, it can reach a number of people in different locations at the one time. So there isn't any limit to the amount of people that can actually link into a virtual classroom, although we would put a recommendation on a certain number because it's very hard for the facilitator to interact if there's too many people actually involved. So a high number of people in different locations, all hearing the one message at the one time through a live interaction. Now today here, obviously we're not in a live interaction, but if you were, there would be a lot of interaction and discussion going on within the group. Or your other option is to listen to a recorded interaction. And the benefits of that are that if somebody misses your live interaction, is that you can leave it up on your system and allow them to interact or allow them to download the recorded interaction so they can hear the same message that everybody else heard. And in actual fact, you can set the limit on how long you need the recorded session up and open on your system. It also allows two-way interaction through a number of different options. So if you look down the side here on the right-hand side, just under the webcam, you'll see that there's 4 participants who are now live in this particular session. And we're going to demonstrate in a couple of minutes how they can actually interact with the facilitator and ask questions. So we're going to show you some of your options there. And finally, we believe that the virtual classroom and the at your desk learning element contributes to blended learning approach. Again, a lot of our clients and a lot of our individual learners would say, do we have any other options outside the classroom? And the answer is yes, you do. And we strongly believe that a virtual classroom will complement some of the classroom learning. It probably won't replace the classroom learning because we do believe in experiential learning and practice and peer feedback, but it will certainly complement it. All right, so what about the learner? So if you're in the other seat, how does it work for you? So firstly, in terms of how you can interact, you can ask questions through a discussion or a chat option, and effectively all you have to do is type in some text. So if you look at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that there's chat option, and you'll actually see now that there's a little symbol saying that Paul is actually typing. And we can see now that we have a question from Paul. And the question is, can I ask questions? Paul simply just typed in on the bar, and through the quotation mark there, he clicked on that, and that sent the question to me. So I can stop now and say, yes, Paul, you can actually ask questions. I see that Paul is typing again, so let's hang on and see what Paul has to say for himself. So a number of people can type in at any one time, and all the facilitator needs to do is to have a look at the information that's been typed in and answer the questions. So in this situation, Paul is asking, how long is the session? So Paul, as we said, the session should last about 10 minutes long. Okay, so let's continue on. You can also position an opinion or statement at any time to the discussion or chat option. So I will just keep my eye on the left-hand side and I'll see who's asking questions or who's making comments. And if a very interesting comment or opinion comes up, I'll be very happy to throw it out to the rest of the audience to see can anyone else give any comments or any contribution based on the comments that have been made. So in that way, we can interact quite a bit. The next thing a participant can actually do is ask a question through an audio link that the facilitator can activate. So I did say to you that if you had a headset with a microphone on it, that will allow you to ask a question. So if you look at the top section just above the slide deck there, you'll see a number of icons. And one of the icons is like a microphone, and you just need to make sure that that's green. So if you use an actual arrow key beside the microphone, click down and enable your microphone. On the right hand side then you'll see what I would call a little Lego man, and again you will see an arrow to the right of him. So if you click down on that arrow, you'll see there's a number of options in relation to asking the facilitators to go faster, go slower, speak louder, etc. But also you will see that there's an option to raise your hand to ask a question. So in this situation I can see that Paul has raised his hand. So on the right hand side Paul's hand is up, so that indicates that Paul has actually asked a question. So what I'm actually going to do now is enable Paul's microphone, and then Paul should be able to ask a question. So Paul, whenever you're ready, ask your question.
Hi, Nicola. Can I do a quiz?
Paul, actually you can do a quiz, and that's something that we're going to demonstrate now. So in relation to
Hi,
quizzes
Nicola.
or
Can I do a
polls,
quiz?
the facilitator can set it up in advance and can actually pose a question to the group. So here's one I prepared earlier. So I'm going to actually ask the group this question. So if the group could look at the question now, and the question is, how often have you attended a virtual classroom? So is it never? Is it 1 to 5? Is it 5 to 10 times? Or is it more than 10 times? So we can see now at this moment that one person has cast a vote. Now we can see two people, or I can see that. I know you can't actually see it. Right, we have three people who have casted a vote. So at this point now, I'm going to broadcast the results. So on screen now, you should see the results being broadcasted. So you can see that we have quite a mix here. Somebody hasn't never attended a virtual classroom, and then someone has them 5 to 10 times, and then we've some very experienced person here who has attended more than 10 times. So I'm going to just close down now my poll and my quiz and move on. So hopefully, Paul, that answers your question in relation to quizzes, and that just gives you another demonstration of some of the interaction that you can actually do. So what I'm going to do is disable Paul's mic now. So at any stage I can enable or disable. So once the hand goes up, I can actually see that there is a question, and I'm very happy to actually answer that. Okay, let's continue. So getting started. So how easy, how difficult it is? Well, Harvest will do all the setup, or the facilitator or host should do all the setup. And simply what they do is send you an invitation, and the invitation will have a URL, and that URL will be able to access the actual classroom. And in our situation here, all you will have to do is log on to www.harvest.ie and enter into the Harvest Learning Hub. And from then on, you can see our virtual classroom options. But if you were doing a private virtual classroom for you, in advance, we'd send you an invitation with the exact logon details. You will have to do an audio check in advance, and up at the top of your screen there you'll see the word meeting, and in there you have an auto wizard to actually test the headset in terms of the hearing. And in our invitation that we would send you, we would send you all those tests. So all you have to do then is just log on at the time that you're told to log on, and you should be able to activate and interact in the classroom with ease. Other than that, once you log in, and we'd recommend that you log in about 5 minutes before kickoff, the facilitator will walk you through the key features before you start. So in this particular recorded session, I walked you through the features as we were demonstrating them as Paul was asking the questions. But normally the facilitator will walk you through the key features like how to activate your mic, how to make sure that you can type in, and also giving you opportunities to ask questions. That will all be done at the very beginning. Okay, other than that, there is an option for anyone to become a host. And so during the actual virtual classroom, if Paul, for example, or Maria or John in this situation had something to say and wanted to take over from the presenter, it's very easy just to activate the presenter to actually talk. So that's something that we can do. But if you are a presenter and if you are looking after the whole virtual classroom, some of the recommendations are is that you would need to be there about 10 minutes in advance. Secondly, we would say that welcome everyone as they log on and check their audio and chat functioning. So you can see people as they're logging on because on the right hand side there, the person's name will appear as they log on. So as people are joining the classroom, and indeed as people are leaving the classroom, it's very visible to the facilitator at all times. The facilitator should always start with the rules of engagement, how to ask questions and how to participate through interactive polls. How long the actual session is going to be, so the participants don't have any questions really. Indeed, if they did have questions, it's very easy, as you can just see was demonstrated, to ask questions at any point. Ensure that the facilitator is attentive to the participants at all times in terms of your speed and also your attention to the discussion text. So keep your eye on the chat box, keep your eye on the hands up, and as long as you do that, you should be able to facilitate your learners and your participants very easily. And finally, it's really important to communicate clearly any follow-up that's required or what phase you are at within the programme that you're in. So in our situation in Harvest, the virtual classroom will probably be part of a number of interventions. So we would always end with telling you your next phase is, and if there is not a next phase, I suspect to just thank the participants for actually engaging in the session. So at this stage, I'm going to sign off. I hope you found that useful. Before we sign off, I'd like to just do a little bit of a reflection and hopefully you got something from it. So 3 questions you need to ask yourself. What did you learn from this session, or indeed what were you reminded of? What are you going to implement? And finally, is there any additional support that you need? And we'd strongly encourage that you put 1 or 2 learning points and 1 or 2 points for implementation or action to ensure that you get the best from this particular session. Other than that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to enjoy us, and good luck with your next virtual classroom. Thank you.